Tell you, it's really hard to figure out what kind of YouTube videos to make. You hear the audience. I mean, I do. I hear the audience. I know what they're saying, that they would like to see a little bit more to my channel than wells and solar panels. And this is an off-grid channel, so I try to stick to that topic, because if I don't, YouTube, the computer, the genius, it's called AI, artificial intelligence, and it's supposed to be well, at least a few years ago, was supposed to be the smartest computer on the planet besides Google. Google itself. Now, Google owns YouTube. So, you got to figure out how to balance all this. But sometimes I do a video that's completely unrelated to off-grid and it does really well, and then other times I do a video that's unrelated to off-grid and it does terrible. And it's very clear as to why it does terrible. It's because YouTube is asking, why are you showing how to rewire a tiny house when your house is about living off-grid? I'm just using that example. I'm not saying that would actually be a bad thing. I'm just trying to throw an example of what it is I'm talking about. So a while back, I put a switch in the well house for my well pump. And that video did really well. I showed you how to rewire it. So I never know what to do. The other day, a few weeks ago, I made a video about the lawnmower. And I really thought that video would do terrible because it's a lawnmower. What's that got to do with off-grid? Everybody knows a lawnmower, but it did really well. So who knows? It's very confusing. So today, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I've got an old chainsaw. I bought it, I think, at a Home Depot or Lowe's. I can't remember which, but it's a Ryobi. Yeah, I don't know where the advertisement is on it. Oh, it's on the side. And last fall, it was running fine. Then this winter, Carolyn asked me to cut up an old knotty piece of wood so she could split it a little bit better. So I started the chainsaw up, and it just wouldn't stay running. So I threw it to the side. I mean, it was extremely cold, so I just threw it to the side, and I thought I'd deal with it later. I never did get the stump or the knotty piece of wood cut up the way she wanted. I have another chainsaw, and it's ancient. I bought it probably 2001, 2002 time frame. I never used it. Never. My ex-wife hated using things and wearing them out. You buy a new car, don't drive it because you'll wear it out. She did not like running up miles, so she would never let me use it for anything. So I had this chainsaw. It sat in the garage for years. Well, then I took it over to Mom when we started living as nomads. But anyway, I got it back, and the hose had dry rotted on it, the gas lines. So I bought these gas lines, and I redid it. Just got on YouTube, learned how to do it, and it really wasn't hard. I say it's not hard. The gas tank literally has holes in it, and the hose has to run through the hole, and keep it sealed. That hose has to make a seal so the gas doesn't leak out. So you gotta have the right size hose. So I bought a variety pack. Oh, there's a spark plug in there. I wonder what that goes to. Oh, the generator, I know what that goes to. So I bought a variety pack of different sizes, hoses, and I thought I'd never use it before it dry rots. I think the gas just makes it dry rot, I'm not sure. Well, anyway, so I bought this chainsaw at Home Depot or Lowe's, and it basically cut the majority of the 15 cords of wood that I've got, so 15 years of firewood. And I thought that was pretty fantastic for a little cheap, I don't know, it probably cost $125 lawnmower, and it's got, I don't remember, maybe a 8 or 10 inch blade. I mean, it's not very big. And the reason I like it small, the other one's a lot bigger, is when you're cutting, you want to make sure that your blade doesn't go much further than the thickness of the log that you're cutting. And the reason is you can get kickback. That's when the top of the saw blade hits something or a rock under a side, and it comes back and hits you. So if you don't have a lot of blades sticking out on the other side of the log, you're less likely to hit a rock or something and come up and hit you in the head. So that's why I like small chainsaws. It's nothing about machoism. I mean, everything is about machoism when it comes to guys, but to me, I'm quite macho. I'm fine with my macho-ness. So small chainsaw, as long as it cuts the wood, that's all I care. So like I said, it stopped running. So I thought I'd break into it today, because I told you the other day I want to cut down this walnut tree here, and I need to get it up and running for the walnut tree right there. I need to cut that one down. So I was talking about buying a pole saw, 16-foot pole saw, and cutting down the limbs. And I probably will still do that, but I was thinking, you know, if I could hook a 2x4 up to this little saw and reach over there, I might be able to cut it down. Even if I can't, I still need the saw for once the tree is down. I need to be able to cut it up into pieces. I thought I'd start this one up and see what I could do with it. Well, it won't start, obviously. So I tore it apart. Now, the problem is I don't like making videos that I don't know the outcome on. It's just a big disappointment to me. I make you watch a 15-minute video, and whatever it is we were working on doesn't work. So it's kind of scary to me. So I took it apart. Now, I know the fun part of videos about working on things is watching people disassemble it and reassemble it. But like I said, I didn't know if I'd be able to figure out what was wrong with it. But I did. So it's not hard to take apart. There's a shroud. And the shroud had 1, 2, I think 3 screws in it. The only problem with the screw is you got to make sure you have a torque bit. It wasn't too terrible. I was able to use a flathead for most of them until I got to the carburetor, and one of the screws just wouldn't come out with a flathead, so I had to go find my Torx. So that was 3 screws, and then there's 2 screws that go into the carburetor. Right here, 1, 2. Of course, there's a shroud around the carburetor that goes like this. So there was a screw down here as well holding that air filter in. This is the air filter. So I just took those screws out and it all came apart just like it's supposed to. And so now you have all these hoses, and the hoses look fine. There's nothing wrong with them that I can tell. But I got down into this hose right here. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but you might be able to hear a little squeak when I push the ball. And gasoline is not coming out of that. I saw gasoline dripping down on the ground, so I thought that's why it was bad hoses. But what you might be able to see now, you can possibly see that my hose has come loose from the ball valve. That green hose, see how it's moving around there? So I think all I got to do is reattach that and then put it all back together. Now, of course, the carburetor's pretty dirty. I could clean it, and I probably should clean it, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is put the 2 screws back in, maybe put the air filter shroud back on, and start it and see if it runs. If the carburetor's dirty, then I'll know then that I need to clean it. But I don't want to knock anything loose, dirt-wise, and shove it down into that carburetor. Now, I probably didn't have to disconnect the carburetor, except the shroud was in the way. So I'm going to fang-dangle that a little bit and see if I can get that back on, that hose. Okay, again, I don't know how well you're going to see things in the camera, but what has happened is the hose has mushroomed out a little bit. So when I put it back on, it just popped right back off. So I'm going to cut off a little piece of that to get it where we get below the mushroom part of it. If I was being a mechanic, I would do it properly. Okay, so we got it to work. Gasoline is going through it. I don't know if you can see the flow, but this one here you might be able to see the flow of gasoline going through it. So I'll put the carburetor back together. Okay, I went ahead and replaced that hose. That was the hose that was causing me the most trouble, this one here. And after I trimmed it up, it made it too short. It's very stiff and maybe even a little brittle. So I went ahead and replaced it since I had that extra hose here. And I ran it across. I don't think I got it in exactly the way it was, but I think it'll work. And gasoline is flowing through it. So it started and died, but when I looked to see what happened, the hose had fell off on this side. So I put it back on this side and then it came off on this side. So I decided that I just needed a longer piece of hose. Okay, it's running, but I got it on choke. I'm gonna come over here so I can talk to you. So it's running, but it's on choke. And when I take the choke off, it dies. So I thought I'd just let it run on choke for a bit, see how it does. If it doesn't stay running, then I know that the carburetor is dirty, and then I'll just go ahead and clean it. So I'm gonna check to see if the carburetor needs cleaned. If it does, then I'm just gonna leave it disassembled. We'll do that for another project, but at least now I got it running. So we're one step ahead. If it doesn't need cleaned, then we'll go ahead and reassemble the shroud. Okay, so it wasn't allowing me to run it without the choke on. So I thought, well, I'll just start messing around with it before I start taking that carburetor off. Thought I'd take a good look at the spark plug. And when I did, the wire fell apart in my hand. So that might have been the issue. It just didn't want to come off. So I don't know how much I want to invest in this chainsaw. I mean, it's a cheap chainsaw, throwaway chainsaw, I don't know if I want to invest any more. I'll take a look, see if I can find a replacement for the spark plug wire, see how much that costs. You know, if it's $5, I'll give it a try. But if it's $10 or $20, that might be a little bit too much that I want to spend, and just might invest in another chainsaw. Of course, I still want to get that pole saw, so. But at least we got it running. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to that video that I made yesterday. So I hope I can inspire you. If it's already broke, can't break it worse. To live your dreams. Thanks for watching.